future trends, deep insights, industry leaders. This is the iGaming Next podcast with your host, Pierre Lindh.
Good morning, Jonas. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well, thank you, Jonas. And in the preparation for this podcast, I've heard some really interesting comments. Like I was telling you before the podcast that I was speaking to our mutual friend, you could say, Phil Pearson here. And when I mentioned that I'm recording this podcast today with him, he shined up like a little kid on Christmas Eve here today. He was excited for this, so I am excited as well to be talking to you today.
Phil is a funny guy. I mean, we are LinkedIn buddies, but whenever he says something, it's pretty interesting and funny. So yeah, I'm also looking forward to this.
Yeah, great. And I think that is, mentioned this in the podcast before, but there is few people in this industry who is actually willing and open to have strong opinions and to really stand for what they believe in this industry. And I think, especially as a game studio, you're a creative company in essence, and to be able to have these strong beliefs and so on and so forth, it must be an asset to you. But do you also get in trouble sometimes for being like very straight to the point?
I normally I say what I think, and it's sometimes not always good for me, but I mean I do interviews like I do games. We go our own way, and that's just the way it is. And that suits me good. And I don't do many interviews, so this is an exception actually.
I'm very honored. Jonas. Yeah, it's been a long time in the making, this one, but here we are.
Yeah,
but
I want to finally.
I want to start off by a question here, Jonas. So you obviously produce really high level games and super detailed, and they are really loved, especially by the hardcore slot enthusiasts. And I wanted to start off by asking, like, how important is it to be a gambler yourself? Like, do you play slots yourself, for example? Not only no limit slots, obviously testing environments and stuff like that, but do you also gamble in general?
No, actually, I don't. I mean, I'm sure that most will, disagree with me, but I don't believe you need to be a slot gambler to build a good slot. And I mean, I'm not, and I build slots, and they are pretty good. So. Sometimes it feels like it's an excuse for being a gambler, and you need a real job. So that's like a reason to say, oh, you have to be a gambler to build a good slot. But I don't believe in it.
Okay.
But I do play a lot of other competitors' games. I play them a lot, but I play with play money. I don't need to gamble for real to understand what's behind the slots. I think it's like there's. If you're experienced, you can see through how it will be to play a slot with real money.
And which of your competitors' games are your favorite games, would you say?
There's so many good games around, and I really like quite a lot of our competitors' games. When I can feel that they are focusing on the product. I normally tend to like whatever they do, and I have a couple of favorites, and it's no secret. I like push gaming. I like big time gaming. I think Elk has done good games. Maybe not recently, but at least in the past. So there's a lot of good game providers around.
And is any game provider that have kind of lost their mojo a bit, do you feel?
Oh yeah, many game providers, I think, and I think the last what has happened to this industry the last 10 years is it's a lot. I mean, it's something totally new now than it used to be 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago. And there's a lot of successful game providers that been around for a long time, and what happened, I think, to most of them is that they got stuck in the past a little bit too much, and now when the industry is changing, they don't really change. with the industry, and then they fall behind a little bit and go flat or even go down. So that's pretty normal.
Yeah, and like, how has the industry changed over you mentioned like the last 10 years, let's say. I mean, 10 years ago, it was Netent who was on the top of the hill. You know, they felt unbeatable in a way, and
they were
and they've been, yeah, and then there's been a slow regression from that top provider like Netent. Like, what happened there? And also just walk through the changes of the industry as you have seen it in the last decade.
It's a totally new world out there now. I mean, 10 years ago, it was just about building a slot. That was it. And you built a slot, and you sort of made it available somewhere somehow, and it just earned tons of money on it. And then obviously that changed a little bit when a couple of other slot providers came up, and distribution became a big thing together with producing a slot. But I mean, the content that was built back in the days was not that good, but still worked very good.
Yeah. And they were speaking more to the masses, perhaps, or it's like now there's so many games that you have to find your niche
yeah, I mean, back then you just built a slot. I mean, it didn't really matter what you did.
Yeah.
And the process of building one, I'm sure, it was a lot different from what it is now. Now it's all about the product, and the product is not just the game itself. It's also things around the game, which is, I mean, we are becoming a more mature industry. So we have to, work more as other mature industries do, which is working with the brand, identity of your company, and things around the game. Who do we cooperate with? I mean, what kind of atmosphere, customer segmentations, data analysis. And I think that's where a lot of companies that were successful before, they are a little bit stuck on, like, I don't understand why it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And one big problem is that they're still making a lot of money on, from the days that, when they were successful, because the value of a old title that's sort of been cemented into being successful, I mean, it almost never ends. And we see that still. I mean, some of the titles came out like 5-10 years ago. They are still like number 1, 2, 3, 4. So
what do you feel like when you produce a game these days? Can you feel before you launch it that it's going to be a hit, let's say, or does it sometimes come from left field that a game that you are not expecting to be the biggest game of the year turns out to be much bigger than you expected? Is it easy to anticipate these things for you?
I think you can get a feeling that this is really going to work out. I mean, I think we are getting more and more comfortable in, what will make a good game. And that's because we are relying more on, a process and a checklist and, data analysis on how to make a good slot, today. And so, yes, I think that you can anticipate it, but not in the way it used to be. And, the way a lot of other providers work, and it's more of a guessing game. When you just do it like, Netent used to do it 5-10 years back. And, they still do. I'm not sure.
Fair enough. So I mean, Jonas, you clearly have managed to figure out the secret sauce here, let's say, to create. I mean, on the big win boards, your games are, I think, voted second, third, and fifth best games of the year last year, and clearly the hardcore segment is really enjoying the games that you are producing. Can you share the secret sauce? Like, what is it that you think that makes your games stand out so much against your competitors?
Well, it's about the product. That's the only thing we care about. We don't care about anything else. I mean, we don't want to be stuck in the past, and we've been in the past as well. I have to say that. So why I feel when I look at others, and I can almost feel like, oh, this is what we went through 2019 or 18, where we were, doing it over and over again and didn't really work. But I mean, I think us not being that successful a couple of years back made us, forced into take drastic sort of do drastic changes to how we do the product, and we sort of got into the right track end of 19, and then we just sort of unlocked it. And the secret is, well, I don't know if I have the secret sauce, but it has to do with engaging with the players in a different way through the product. And it's not the game only. It's like you said, it's the community. It's being, who do we target, and for that customer group, what do they want? We want to sort of align ourselves with our players, and we don't want to surprise them too much. We want to give them something that they expect a little bit, but still something new.
Yeah, and because you have talked a lot about as well the importance of brand identity and the identity of Nolimit City. You have this. You've chosen this edgy path, right? Which you seem to be alone in a sense. You seem to want to push the limits and so on and so forth. It's like, is that also kind of part of the secret here, that you are not, at least from the outside, it seems that you are not interested in making generic games, let's say, that's speaking to the masses. Like you are making particular games that are a bit crazy, and not everyone has to love them. It's this famous quote that says, if you want to make everyone happy, then sell ice cream. And maybe that is something.
Yeah, we don't sell ice cream at Nolimit, that's for sure. I mean, we are a little bit we are a little bit edgy, and I think it came slowly by analyzing what worked for us, and also like the change of product that we wanted to target maybe a niche of the market, and in that niche we wanted to dominate the segment, and for that niche it felt natural to be quite extreme in different ways, both through themes but also through volatility and other parts of the slots, and also the way we talk to the players and the community. It's like everything is
right.
It's a plan for our players, really.
Yeah, because you're not scared of a bit of controversy here as well. I mean, and it can be such a fine line, walking this edgy line and pushing the limits. Like I've been reading now the upcoming game Mental here is like really pushing it further into like the serial killer vibes and gore and all this. They think like
yes,
where do you like how do you draw the line? Like what is okay and what is not okay?
I don't know where the line is. I'm trying to balance on it, maybe.
Trying to find it. Yeah.
I don't really understand, because I mean we released a couple of games, and there's been a little bit of talk in the community. Even competitors has called me up and like, what are you doing? I mean, can you make a slot? I mean, a prison slot, and joke about dropping the soap and stuff. And I mean, I'm a little bit surprised, because if you look at the computer game industry, if you look at the movie industry, I mean, they can do whatever they want, and there's no real good way to make sure that your viewers are under 18. I mean, that's just all over the place, and you get away with murder like it's nothing. So I don't understand why we should be held into pushed into this snowflake mentality. I mean, we know our players are above 18, so I think we should have full freedom to do whatever we want. But of course, then it's the regulations, and some regulators are a little bit sensitive towards some stuff, and then we just try to adapt in those markets. But I mean, we are not going to change. We're going to go all in on what we think is a good slot, which is like, I mean, going under the skin of the players, trying to create as much atmosphere in the slot as possible. Obviously, we don't have the same power as a movie, but I mean, we'll do our best to do it as good as possible.
I think what you mentioned is really important here. You know, how far do you draw the line? Because as you say, in the movie industry, the video games industry is pushing the limits far beyond what the game studio and the slot industry is doing, and maybe that is related to the fact that the industry is quite young in a sense.
Maybe I don't understand it fully, but of course, I mean, if a regulator says this is not allowed, we don't do it. But other than that, I mean, we're just gonna do what we think is the best possible product, and that might be gory or something like that, and then we're just gonna do it.
Can you talk through a little bit, like when you come up with the idea of the mental game, for example, like how are the discussions in the boardroom going?
I don't know. They're mental. No, but I mean, we obviously we are a group of creative people, and it's a really fun gang, and we have this way of working now, which is maybe a little bit different from others, and we just talk and discuss and try to figure out how can this sort of theme go all the way with everything we think is a good slot, with the math and everything around the slot, the marketing, the player discussion, the player forums. We try to analyze how will it be everywhere, and how will it work with our sort of mechanics that we use, how will it present itself in different scenarios, and then when we feel we locked in a good theme, then we try to create a game according to that, and then we follow it quite strict. It has to be the game has to be about that. So and when I look at some competitors' games, I mean, I don't understand anything. It's just all over the place, and it's like fruits, and they mix things, and it doesn't make any sense. And that's not how we want to build a game at No Limits.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it has to also be like the creative process, especially for you guys who are really pushing the limits. I mean, you must have really infused this feeling in your team that any idea is okay. Like, because I think in a lot of teams in creative departments, they are perhaps ring-fenced a little bit around not the ability not to go too crazy, let's say, and like these crazy ideas, you have to be able to. Let's say that 9 out of 10 ideas are probably you won't do them, but it's okay, like, right? Like you should be able to.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like
throw ideas around.
You can't have the normal ideas. That's forbidden. We have to be.
That's when you get angry.
A little bit crazy. I mean, that's good for us now. But I mean, that's also like you have to think about. This is the path we are on now, and then that might not be the case if we would do 60 games per year. I don't think we can go and do all that like the same we do now. I do think there's maybe a limit on how much you can do under one brand, for example. And I think some companies, they don't they do maybe too many games under the same brand, which can get a little confusing for the players.
Maybe you should change name to Limit City instead.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should, and then we do some we do 24 extreme games, and we do 12 soft games. I don't know. It's a possibility.
But what's your thought? Because I hear a lot of operators discussing this in general. Like your thoughts on some game studios, they have this ethos to produce as many games as possible. Like churning out games versus, let's say, Todd of Evolution. He talks a lot about like focus on creating the games and do them right. For example, like what is the right way to do things? I mean, is there something to be said about just like churning out as many games as you can, and in order to do
for
all
us,
areas of the market?
Churning out games fast. I mean, for us, that's not a good business model. I mean, now, that's what we used to do back in the days. We built a game and it churned out, and we didn't make any money pretty much. And then when we started to change the way we work with product and we build a couple of really good games, I mean, they don't churn out. That has a huge effect on how much money you earn. I mean, it's like making a good game every month. I mean, we have games that grow on a monthly basis. So
yeah,
obviously, I mean, at least for us, we have to build good games. That's what we need to do. And but it's not only building good games. I mean, we also want to build them cheap. And that's like, there's a lot of cliche among providers, because many will say we put quality over quantity and stuff like that. And I mean, to me, when I look at the game, it feels more like they don't know how to control costs. So I do think you can build a good game, quite cheap, and you should really focus on having a healthy relationship between cost and quality and quantity. I mean, today, you can't do, like Netent did a couple of years ago, have hundreds and hundreds of people and, not produce many games. It doesn't make any sense. And I think that, now quite a lot of providers realize that, we can't, if we're going to be, this amount of people, we need to build this amount of games.
Yeah. Speaking of Netent, and obviously been acquired by Evolution, and they are still publishing, stagnant numbers from the quarterly report that came here a couple of weeks ago. Moving into the kind of the topic of Evolution in general, they acquired Netent, they acquired Big Time Gaming, Red Tiger, of course, included in the Netent deal. What do you think? What do you make of Evolution in general? Do you think that they're them monopolizing the game production more and more? Let's say, is that a good thing for the industry or a bad thing for the industry?
Well, consolidation. It's natural. It will happen, and the way the valuations are now at the moment, especially Evolution, it makes total sense to buy things and buy it with shares. So it's just it makes sense. So that's why it's going to happen.
Yes,
more and more.
Yeah, consolidation itself I think it's a natural progression. So for Evo, it's good. But what do you think for the ecosystem itself, for the operators, for the future growth of the industry? Is it do you think Evolution is going to turn into Playtech 2.0? Do you think they'll continue their march on? I mean, what's your? You must be thinking a lot about this.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the plans, but I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure the consolidation will continue with Evolution and other companies too. And but there will always be new companies coming up with good products. So I don't see that one company will take over the world or something like that. That will never happen. And when you grow and things gets more complicated, and then there's always new, fresh, creative companies that comes in and makes good products.
Do you think there's a risk of let's say Evolution becoming so big that they will potentially put pressure on operators to only highlight their games, for example? Because at the end of the day, it's difficult to be an operator without using Evolution as a supplier, and when they're in that strong position, eventually they might start taking advantage of that position, right, to close others out. Pragmatic is growing a lot; they are becoming a needle in the eye. Why wouldn't they?
I don't know. I mean, it makes sense to apply a little bit of pressure, but I think it's like I mean, if you become very, very big, I'm not sure the best strategy is to force the customers to something they don't really want to do. It's not a good long-term plan. But of course, I mean, they will be able to keep the rates up, and I'm sure there will be a little bit of pressure, for them to make money. I mean, it's what companies try to do. Everyone wants to try to make as much money as possible.
Yeah, for sure. This is, I guess, we have history. We have a lesson in history here, which is, the clearest example is Playtech back in the 2000s, who tried to do just that, right? They're trying to set exclusive deals with operators, and eventually they grew to the point where that model just was not working anymore, right?
No, that was back in the
it kind of
days
fell
when
apart.
you built slots and it was difficult to have it like many providers, and it was like technical issues, and now it's
and then
not
through
like
the
that.
seamless wallet, that kind of changed, right?
I mean, now that doesn't make sense, and that's obviously something they realized, that this doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's. I'd like to change the topic a bit, something completely different here, because it's something that I'm interested in myself as well, which is award shows of the industry and fake awards, particularly.
Yeah,
I know that you've been like very vocal here. Like, what is the state of industry awards? Is my question to you.
I mean, it's different. I think. I mean, some award companies are more serious than others. No, but I mean, it's. I think it's probably one of the more stupid things that exists in our industry. It's very much old school thing. I mean, and I don't blame the award companies. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I respect every company that wants to make a buck, but the way it is done now, it's like the same. It was used like 10 years ago, and it's like you have to pay to most of them. Sometimes it's like not obvious that it's related, but everyone knows it's obvious.
It's kind of like a wink, wink.
First you pay, and then you celebrate you got shortlisted, and then if you win, then it's like a lot of celebration. And I think where we are now in the industry, it doesn't need to be like that, because it gets kind of ridiculous. Then people know what games are, for example, best game of the year or something like that. People know what games are best that year, and when they don't even get shortlisted or they don't win, it's like, why do we do this? Why do we celebrate the shortlist when the two best games are not in the competition and stuff like that? So it gets a little bit ridiculous, and I think the industry should change. And if somebody talks about it on LinkedIn or wherever, I'm happy to say what I think. It's just stupid.
Yeah. Have you been offered to buy awards?
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, sometimes it's like, this is the pricing to win and get shortlisted. The bigger companies, they're a little bit more like careful about how they express themselves. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, we didn't really do that good games up until 2020. I mean, we didn't really have any game that could, for example, win Game of the Year. But 2020, we released two very good games, Deadwood, Punk Rocker. And they were, Deadwood together with Money Train 2, excellent game. They were, all the awards where the players voted, they were like the top two to win, because they were dominating the 2020. And we submitted these games to one of these award companies, and there's like, okay, guys, you can win now. This is gonna happen. Like, we're so glad for you. And next day somebody calls up and it's like, okay, what can you buy from us? What subscriptions? What banner space? What do you want to buy? It's like, we don't want to buy anything. Like, you have to buy. You have to work with us. Like, we're not gonna buy anything from you guys. And then boom, we're not shortlisted. And then the shortlist comes up, and it's like, I don't even know the companies that was on that shortlist. I've never heard of them. I've never played a game. I never heard of the games. And I mean, that year, Money Train 2, Crazy Time, what was there? I mean, I don't know who won. Something I never heard about won that year, and it's like, then it gets a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I feel the industry deserves better. I mean, and for us, it's like, okay, this is how it still works. I'm disappointed, but we're gonna try to build good games instead of even caring about this. And when people celebrate being shortlisted, I'm like, it's embarrassing. You shouldn't do it. Sometimes I tell them, it's like, don't do this. It's just like, and it means nothing to me, those awards.
Yeah. No, we've seen there are more. There are some examples that are clear, or some organizers that are, let's say, more clear than others on what the terms are for buying awards, and some of them it's just unbelievable actually. It's an embarrassment to be associated with the awards like that, because you know that it's so obvious that they are bought, and
yeah, I mean, people should be careful. I mean, people should be careful to sit in a jury like that, because I mean, what they're evaluating is fake. It's it's like companies paid money to be there. Yeah. So, and I do think that, you don't have to do it that way. You can, if it's like, I mean, now there are so many categories, so I get all like dizzy. But I mean, let's say Game of the Awards. I mean, it doesn't really matter if why not let the best games be there all the time?
Yeah, exactly. Like, otherwise it's not an award. I mean, but then there are like companies like Big Win Board, where the vote is by the players, right? And in some way, that is, at the end of the day, it's the players that decide who are the best games.
Yes, and I mean, when the player decides, it means a lot to us to win something, or be top 3 or top 10 or something. So obviously, Big Win Board being the most respected review site, and being strong on being independent and fair. So that means a lot. And anywhere else where the player votes, it's like it's respect if you win. Yeah, and I'll be the first to say it when 2020 when Money Train 2 won. I'm the first to say it's like, congrats guys, and that's a very, very good game. So they deserve it. Yeah.
And then it'd be interesting to know by Big Win Board how they police the votes themselves, because obviously, if a game supplier would decide like we want to win this vote, they could create 1,000 fake accounts and vote essentially. I wonder if there's any policing going on there as well. Or
I think, I mean, I can imagine there's some policing. I mean, there are tools to try to remove votes like that. But I don't know. I don't know how it works.
No, fair enough. I think that's something. I like the idea as well, that it's the players that kind of vote, and the best game is clear as day. The players have voted. This is the best metric that you can possibly find. But I think they should probably be clear in the process there as well, if they want to increase their the status even more, to say like. How do they, police these votes and so on and so forth? Because otherwise, we don't really know if there's any fake.
I mean, transparency. I think that makes total sense in almost everything. So why not be, honest about how things are working? And it's just a good idea, I think. Yeah.
For other industry awards, Jonas, like do you feel? Is there anything that the organizers can do to kind of build the trust in the judging process? You mentioned, how do you, we organize iGaming Idol, for example, and the transparency, something we talk a lot about. We are audited by BDO, for example, so they are in the judging process. They are the ones who kind of take the judges' decisions, and they hold on to those envelopes, and they audit the process. Is that enough?
You think? Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, transparency. This is how it works, and this is how it went down, and you can check the votes or whatever, how people voted, or I mean, that's a good idea. Why not?
Yeah. We always.
I'm also happy to pay for if there's like a huge dinner or something. Obviously, that's cost money, and that's I'm happy to pay for that. But I mean, I just don't like that thing that you have to prepay your shortlisting or something. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, exactly, and that is kind of the toxicity in the events. I mean, when we launched Idol, for example, I mean, people, there's so many award shows that are paid for, let's say, so that the industry, they just assume that the next thing is paid for as well. I mean, so even with the strict judging processes and all of this, it's even so people still feel but there's they decided somehow or whatever, and I understand why, because
it's a problem. I mean, a few will destroy it. for the others.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah. It's like that. I mean, it's a bit of an uphill battle sometimes, but yeah, at the end of the day, the transparency is everything in their virtues, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
So onto I want to switch topic again here, Jonas, and something that's really interesting that came up recently as well. It's on the Twitch side of things. I don't know how closely you've been paying attention here, but there's been a bit of a debate raging in the Twitch community amongst the bigger streamers on the Twitch platform. There's a streamer called H3, and he's one of the biggest streamers in the world, both YouTube and Twitch, and he has a big podcast. He's been doing this for 15 years and so on, and he's been kind of lifting the issue of casino streamers recently, and particularly cross streamers, the ones that have a large following, streaming Fortnite and Counter-Strike and so on and so forth, and then they switch over to casino streaming, and obviously they have a following which is like 95% based of underaged streamers, and they are promoting essentially VPN-based crypto casinos where anyone can deposit, and so on and so forth. So clearly nefarious sites that they are targeting, and that obviously led to Twitch kind of having to take this issue seriously. And now the result of that was obviously that they banned affiliate links from Twitch if you're a casino streamer. And so I want to just slide into this topic a bit. Like, what do you make of these restrictions by Twitch, and just in general, like, what's your relationships to casino streamers in general?
I mean, no big surprise there. I mean, I don't think that real money gambling should be showed to underage public like that. I mean, it's not a good idea. I mean, Twitch is owned by, isn't it like Amazon or something? I mean, they would never allow that. So that was bound to happen. And I guess that, well, I don't know what to say. I mean, casino streamers stream our game. It's not totally unimportant for us. I mean, they market our game in some sense, and explain to the players how they work, and how it is. And if you prefer to watch a streamer play a game and you get a little bit of adrenaline out of that, it's better than play yourself. Maybe you don't have the money. I don't know. So yeah. I streaming, I'm not against it, and to some extent it's one of the channels we use to market ourselves, market our game.
Yeah, I mean, it must be because the rise of casino streaming is a really interesting phenomena in general. The fact that people are interested in watching others play it was something no one could have guessed a couple of years ago. I think and it turns out to be a very powerful marketing tool. I mean, it's one of the few ways really to market a game to the masses. Or would you say so as well? Or
yeah, I mean, definitely, this is the future. I mean, this is how this is maybe how you see a slot game being played the first time is through like looking at someone else doing it, and it's just going to grow. I mean, I don't have to look at my own two kids. I mean, before they play Minecraft, they look at some dude playing Minecraft. So the whole generation coming now, this is what this is going to be the new normal. You look at people doing stuff, and then you do it yourself.
Yeah. Do you think that the streamers will be somewhat crippled now, as they are not able to earn a revenue through affiliation, or do you think they'll find kind of workarounds? I would imagine that
workarounds for sure. I mean, if it doesn't work on Twitch, I mean, I'm sure that soon enough there will be an alternative to do it, and there will definitely workarounds, because this is going to continue one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly. It's like OnlyFans banning porn. It's not like porn streamer will stop. It's just going to move to a different platform. No?
Probably you're right about that.
But yeah, and so on the topic of Twitch streaming in general, like, what's your thoughts as well on the fake streaming community as well? It's a bit of a debate raging there. Like, like when you work with your share your thoughts.
I mean, it's getting a little bit out of hand, I think. I mean, it used to be a little talk about it like a year, maybe a couple of years back. But then as of now, it's like all over the place. And of course, it gets a little bit ridiculous when you see some of the, comes in a streamer and he's betting like hundreds of euros per spin and, having hundreds of thousands on his bankroll. It doesn't make any sense, really. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I think, again, I think transparency is good. I think it's very difficult to regulate this industry. But I think that, we have to, I mean, they have to move towards being more transparent, maybe go like it is like when you listen to a podcast or, you're some influencer doing something on social media. I mean, they are honest about, like, I'm being sponsored about this, I talk about it, and this is my point. They tell like, okay, I get paid to do this, and then they do that, they present it in a way. And I think you can still do that in casino streaming, but I mean, we're not there yet, but I think we will go in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. So fake money streaming is what you're saying is fake money streaming itself is not an issue as long as you are just open and transparent about it. In other words, and I guess that's
it's like playing play money. I mean, and if you're open about playing play money online, why should that be forbidden? Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. But the problem now is that somebody plays play money and they say it's real money, and I don't know where the line goes. Sometimes it's like obvious, like this can't be real, but sometimes it's not that obvious. And as a provider, there's like a little bit misconception in the industry that we are somehow we know, but we don't really know, because for us it looks like a real money round. And the price the operator has to pay is the fee to the operator. So the problem is, I would say, to 99% of the time is between the streamer and the operator. Because there's some kind of agreement between them that we deposit you money and then you cannot withdraw them, just play. Play. And then they have to pay a fee to us providers, and that's the cost of the whole thing. But on that subject, I do think there are actually providers that are also in on it. I mean, there has been providers that maybe come under a little bit of pressure because and then they okay, yes, we do pay streamers, and I think that's fine, but not if they say I play for real money and it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's your relationships to streamers? Like, how do you work with them?
I mean, we don't work with that many streamers. We work with Casino Grounds, for example, and when we do a game release, and then it's always like it's always transparent. I mean, we do this. There's always some kind of fun event, maybe a tournament. There's the money goes to prizes in the tournament and stuff like that, and it's like one company have a business relationship with another company. It's not that's something we do, and I think that's fine. And if you would ask those streamers, like, does Nolimit pay you to do this, they would just say yes. We do, and that's totally fine. And we don't really pay. We don't pay streamers. We don't pay any streamer that is not open about that. This is a business relationship we have with Nolimit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more like event-based, let's say, around the release, for example, you make a special event.
Based,
I don't see why that would be an issue either.
No, I don't see either. I mean, we're companies here, so we have to, try to get our product out.
It also seems like one of the things, Jonas, where it's so new and operators, suppliers, streamers are trying to kind of find their feet into this new segment in a way, and what is okay and what is not okay, taking into consideration responsible gambling and all of these things. And it's an evolving subject still, I feel. And it's again, it's like a recurring thing in this discussion. It's the transparency that is sometimes lacking. Than in other words,
but I also think it's natural. I mean, this is a pretty new industry. Streaming is new within gambling, or fairly new. So of course, like the first few years is going to be a little bit crazy. But I mean, I think it will it will mature, and there will be a healthy balance. There will always be people, doing stuff, a little bit on the edge, which might not be okay always, but it's like that with all industries. So, but I think it will be better if we just wait a few years. That's what
yeah, exactly. And a final question for you today as well, Jonas. Like looking into the future now, in the next couple of years, who will be the winners and losers on the as game studios? Can you make any predictions? Like
as game studios?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
and why?
And why? Yeah, well, definitely the game studios that has a full focus on the product will be the successful ones. The pitfalls are the studios that cannot change with this new way of making a slot game. So and I'm not sure. I mean, I see, if we look at like the mid-sized providers that were very successful 5 years back, that are still earning a lot of money on the titles that they made back then. They are now starting to think that shit, I mean, we are not growing. Why is Nolimit growing hundreds of % every year, and we are going flat? So I mean, they are trying to change now, but I mean, that's not everyone is going to succeed doing it.
That's a very politically correct answer without naming it.
No, but I mean, I still have my favorites. I mean, I think Relax. I forgot Relax last time. I managed the providers, but they are doing some good games. Some games are a little bit like not so good, so they're like a quite good mix there. But Relax and Push and Big Time Gaming, it's like Elk maybe. I mean, love for the product will always pay off in where we are today. And some companies that used to be very successful, they need to shape up a little bit. It's just they need to change. But those companies make a lot of money on the old titles, so it's sometimes it's like the Nokia syndrome. I mean, you're so good, you're the best, and you make so much money. It's very hard to change, like to realize that we're doing it too expensive. We are not as good as these new guys that are doing it cheaper. And there's a handful of companies that has to work in a different way in order to catch up.
Yeah, right. I'm a big fan of thinking from first principles, and essentially, I think this is what we're talking about here. Is that some companies, they end up thinking by analogy, and when you work by analogies, when you continue to do what you have always done. So this is what Nokia did, right? They just continue to change the phone a little bit to do based on the history of their phones, right? And then a company like Apple pops up and they say, we don't care what anyone has ever done in the phone industry before. We're just going to take whatever technologies are available to us, and we're going to create the best product based on the technology that is mature enough right now. And they create something completely different. And that is perhaps the same here in the games industry. What you are saying is some of these legacy game studios, they are used to working in a certain way, and they continue doing that because it's been working in the past. So why change?
Yes, and they're still making a lot of money. It's lagging a few years before I think when your old titles start to churn a little bit, that's when you're thinking like, oops, I really need to think about, I mean, how many games do I make? How many people are we? I mean, that's really what happened to Netent. I mean, they were the biggest, the best. They were the only ones. I mean, without Netent 10 years ago, you were nothing if you were an operator. But now I don't even know what's left of Netent. I mean, so I mean, it doesn't exist anymore. In the way.
And like you say, the lag is interesting because Nokia then, in 2007, 2008, they were still the biggest mobile phone maker, even though Apple had already launched iPhone, 2 years earlier. But it's a lag there, right? The future is solidified in a way, but the change still happens gradually. It doesn't happen overnight, right? And
that's it's very normal. And I think we are very scared of our momentum right now because everything is going. It's so easy for us now. we're everything is going like great. But we need to be careful about, like, we should not think we are the best, and we should be ready that there might be a day where our momentum is not so good. What is the plan then? Then we need to be flexible enough to jump on the next trend, or maybe even before that trend starts, figure out what is the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's something we think about, like, all the time. It's like we have to be careful here. Let's not do what a lot of other, fall into the trap that a lot of other companies has fallen into.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to ask you this as well. I mean, about trends and shifting landscape. Is that something you kind of dedicate time to internally and Nolimit to have discussions around? What are the future trends, or what could disrupt your company, for example?
Yeah, we're definitely talking about it. At the same time, if we have found like something that works out for us, of course we're gonna capitalize on that and go all in on that. But I think it's important to always remind yourself that this might not be the case forever. And of course, when you grow as a company, things gets a little bit more complicated. So there's also organizational thing you have to care about. And there again, it's like you see other companies making mistakes because they grow, they earn a lot of money, and then they're gonna be best at everything. They're gonna open offices all around the world, and then maybe it doesn't work out. Yeah. So then you have to go back again, and we don't want to do that. We want to take it. We want to use the knowledge we have from seeing what happened to other companies and try not to make the same mistakes.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's where we are now.
Fine. And final question then, Jonas, on trends. Like, is there anything you see as an emerging trend now in the future coming years?
The trend is to focus on the product, and the product is not only the game itself. It's everything. And company brand identity, relationships around with players and streamers, maybe, I don't know. That's exactly. That's the future.
It's kind of like whenever you launch a game, it's gonna be a bit crazy kind of thing. That is the identity that you're going for.
Yeah, for us, that's what we want. We are exactly where we want to be. When we launch a game, like, it's our players are waiting for it. They are, they know almost what they're gonna get, but not really. And it's like we're in a perfect situation.
Awesome. Fantastic, Jonas. Thanks for giving some insights here into Nolimit City today. It's really interesting to follow. I've been following you on LinkedIn for a long time. I'm happy we managed to finally get this discussion to life. Is there anything you want to end with today? Any final remarks?
No, not really. It's been fun. It's been fun doing this.
Awesome. Well, take care of yourself, Jonas, and we'll continue discussing here in a way.
Okay, perfect. All right.
All right. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye and ciao.